Hi, today we're going to talk about half rectangle triangles, which are basically a rectangle divided into two triangles. They are quite easy to make. They do take a few more steps than making a half square triangle, but it's super easy to do. Once you do it once, you'll have no problem. One thing to note with half rectangle triangles is that unlike the half square triangle, when you make two half square triangles, because they're equal on all sides, they are interchangeable, meaning they have no direction. But with the half rectangle triangle, they're either leaning up towards the left or leaning towards the right. And if I turn this around, it is still leaning towards the right, and this one is still leaning towards the left. So you do need to know which direction your half rectangle triangle needs to be pointing before you do the sewing and the cutting. But again, it's super straightforward. So what we're going to do is we are going to sew with these fabrics, half rectangle triangles, and we are going to do the left one first, and then we will do the right one. So the first thing you want to do is you are going to take your rotary cutter and you are going to cut diagonally from corner to corner in the direction you want it to angle. And this way we're going towards the left. So I'm just going to put my ruler down, make sure it's lined up directly on both of the corners, and cut along the diagonal. I'm going to do the same one in the same direction for the other piece of fabric. Okay, I guess I should tell you that we are aiming for a 3 by 6 finished half rectangle triangle. So this will be 3.5 inches by 6.5 inches unfinished. And so these pieces of fabric are generally 1 inch wider. So these I cut to 4 inches and 2 inches longer than your finished size. You could do it even wider if you wanted. You could go 1.5 inches wider and 2 inches longer. It wouldn't matter. But I like the 1 to 2 because basically that is what we have here in our finished half rectangle triangle. Is we have 3 by 6, which is a 1 to 2 ratio. So just cutting your fabrics in 1 to 2 means you'll maintain that angle. Okay, so we have these cut apart. And all we do is a little switcheroo. So you can see we have, when we use the fabric like this, we get 2 pairs of the half rectangle triangles. Now, of course, this is a solid, which means I really, could flip it over and it could be the opposite way. But, just take care of that when you're working with solids. When we go to, I'm going to go sew this. What you want to know is there are some pretty substantial dog ears here, and you do want those to be to sew at 1/4 inch. So if you find it helpful, I didn't do it with this one, but you can take your ruler and mark. I don't have a pen here, but I have a pin, so we'll put a pin right at 1/4 inch. And then when you go to line them up, you would want that little mark. You can do it with a pencil or a marking pen as well, to intersect with your other fabric. So you're right at 1/4 inch, and you'll have the same left over here. So because these are really substantially biased edges, I would recommend pinning. So I'm going to pin these. Whoops, got bent over there. I'm going to take that one and use it here. I've got my edges lined up. 2 pins is probably good, maybe 3 if you need it. And you would do the same with this pair. You would match them up and pin them. And now I'm going to go to my sewing machine and sew this 1/4 inch seam, and I will be back to show you how we trim it. Okay, I'm back. I have sewn my seam. I have pressed it over on my ironing board. with the seam in one direction, which normally I just go towards the darker fabric. So it's up to you which way you want to go. And now we're going to trim it. I did want to show you that I have taped off my ruler. I find this to help a lot to the unfinished size. It just allows us to visually see where we need to be. I also, and it's hard to see if you can see that, I have marked a little dot there where it is a 1/4 inch down and a 1/4 inch in from the edge. And I've done this same thing where, can you see that there? Same thing down there in this corner here. I have marked a little dot, a 1/4 inch in. I just used a marker. It'll come off. You can use a little nail polish remover or alcohol to get it off. But I find that really helpful because the key to trimming these these half rectangle triangles is to have this seam line pass through those 2 points a 1/4 inch in, because we need, where am I? Okay, we need to have that corner hit the exact point in the seam allowances. So I'm going to line this up. I've got my 1/4 inch on there and my 1/4 inch on there. Now I don't have much to trim here, so I'll probably move it up a little bit to make sure I have enough. And I will go ahead and trim 2 sides. So I'm going to trim right here. And again, right there. Oops, we got a little dog here today. Okay, so that side's done. And now you can just flip it over. And you have already made the first trim, so you can just do it so that your top edge is at the 6.5 and your side edge is at the 3.5. And I'm just checking to make sure again that those run through. It should, no problem, but that seam is running through my points at a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch here. And so now we just trim off the other side, there and there. I think I need a new rotary cutter blade. Okay, and that's the left leaning triangle. Now we will do the right triangle. This time I am going to cut the, oops, see if we can get it all the way in the frame. Sorry about that. This time I'm going to cut the rectangles so that the seam is going towards the right. So I'm going to cut through the corners just like I did before, but in the opposite direction. And again here. Okay. Again, we just switch. And we will, this time, flip them over and sew the seam this way. I will double check to make sure that I'm at a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch here. And I will pin it, and I will be back after it's sewn and pressed, and then I'll show you how to trim the right leaning half. Okay, I'm back. The seam is sewn. I've pressed it, and we're going to use a similar technique, except our marks for the 1/4 inches are going to be on the opposite sides. Last time they were here and here because we had a left leaning half rectangle triangle, and this time it is here at a 1/4 inch from the top right edge, and then also down here. Can you see that? Right there. So I am going to line up those marks with my seam line. I'm also checking here to make sure that I have enough past this masking tape to trim when it's time to trim, because you don't want it to be too short. So I definitely have enough here. I'm extended here. The seam is going through my spot there and there. So I'm going to trim these 2 sides. out of the way. I really do need to put a new blade in this. Okay. Then we will rotate it. And again, we should be able just to use the straight lines of the masking tape to get us our 3.5 by 6.5. And you'll see my seam is very close. I may not have lined it up perfectly to those quarter inch marks, but it will be good. So there we go. We got a right leaning, and here's our left leaning. Now, of course, there are 2 more of each of the triangles. You could do another left leaning and another right leaning. So basically, you yield 2 units from each set of rectangles, but that's as easy as it is. It's just a matter of cutting your fabric on the diagonal in the correct direction, sewing the seam, pressing, and trimming. Hope that was helpful.